Konnichiwa, minasan. I wanted to share with you some guidance regarding the interviews that you're going to do on Monday and Wednesday. Um, they are meant to be short interviews, only 6 or 7 minutes long, intended to be done without textbooks or notes in front of you. So if you want to prepare, you could download the PowerPoint presentations in Brightspace. You can review the vocabulary, grammar, expressions, and in the textbook, you can look at handouts that I've given you where you've practiced answering questions. You can do or review the workbook homework assignments that you've had to do, which also give you opportunities to practice some of these expressions and use the vocabulary. So you've got a lot of things that you can do. You can listen to the audio files as well to hone your pronunciation and your responses. So some things that you should be able to do: basic aisatsu, greetings that are culturally appropriate, meaning you know who you're talking to. Since you'll be talking to me, that means they probably need to be a little bit more formal, right? You need to be able to construct simple sentences using the X, Y des form, which is how we typically have been answering questions anyway. So you should be feeling pretty comfortable with that. Um, you should be able to answer questions based on information presented to you. So I might share my screen, or I will share my screen with an image, and then I will ask you some questions about that image. And you can either answer, in the affirmative, like "Hi, so desu," or you can say "yeah," and you can provide the correct information. And since we just learned it, I may throw in "janai desu ka," using the negative question seeking confirmation. So make sure that you have reviewed that as well. Um, be able to answer questions about your name, onamae wa, your major, anata no senko wa, your age, nansai desu ka, where you're from, go shushin wa, and what your job or employment is. Oshigoto wa nan desu ka? So remember the interviews that you did at the beginning of lesson 2 when I had you walk around and interview 3 classmates. These are some of the basic questions that I could ask you, something very similar to that. Also very similar to what you did for your self-introductions. Lesson 2, we learned how to say bigger numbers. So we had talked about things in the thousands and the 10,000s and hundreds, and especially those irregular pronunciations. So make sure that you've reviewed those, because I will ask you questions again with shared images about ikura desu ka, how much is something. And then you'll also be looking at images and using vocabulary that expresses where things are. So kore, sore, are, kono, sono, ano, and koko, soko, asoko. So you'll have to be familiar with the question forms, dore, dono, and doko. So make sure that you've reviewed those. I can ask you also questions about dare no, which means whose something is it, right? So you need to know your things, the vocabulary around things that we've learned up to this point, and vocabulary that we've learned about places up to this point. Some other grammar or vocabulary that you could use when you're responding to certain questions could be noun mo, which means this is something too. Janai desu. So instead of saying ie, you could say ie, sore janai desu, right? You can use that as a possible answer and then provide the correct information. And then, if it's appropriate, using o kudasai or o onegai shimasu. So basically it's everything, but you have all of the resources. And if you've been reviewing, as I do, every assignment is asking you to review and review and review. So if you've continued to review, you should be in pretty good shape. Finally, I do want to talk about grading. I will be using something similar to the daily performance grade, where a 5 points is you do everything accurately with ease and fluency. You self-correct all of your errors, and you maybe even try to apply some of your expressions in different contexts. 4.5 is just a little bit lower than that. 4, 3.5, and 3. As you go down. So make sure that you read through this. If you don't show up for your interview, that's a 0. And this will be included as part of your midterm, which we'll be taking on March 11th. So this is sort of the oral portion of the midterm. So I'd really hope that you don't miss your interview. If you have to miss your interview, please communicate with me as soon as possible. This email includes the email that I'm sending sending this with includes your time. So make sure that you know your time and that you get into Zoom, a minute or two before so that you can be in the waiting room ready to go when I open the door and ask you to come in. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. I will be traveling on Saturday and on Wednesday, so I won't be very available on those days. But on Sunday, I'll be checking my email occasionally. Monday and Tuesday, I'm working remotely, so I'll be checking my email much more regularly on those days if you have any questions. So, 本当にみんな頑張ってください. Do your best. And 今日の雪の日を楽しんでください. Please enjoy today's snow day. ありがとうございますね。さよなら。